Everyone knows the Mario franchise's biggest names: the Man in Red himself, his brother Luigi, Princess Peach, Bowser, Yoshi, Wario, Donkey Kong. Their designs, personalities, and motivations have grown across the decades and captivated players across the world. Consistently fun gameplay has also helped. But you know something the series doesn't get enough credit for? How well it builds up a memorable cast of secondary characters. Miyamoto and crew have this way of taking some background NPC and making them a fan favorite almost effortlessly. It's not often you see a side character become a face of their franchise, but not only does it happen all the time here, several have spun off into their own sub-franchises with their own core casts, and even the ones who get used less often end up with devoted fans clamoring for them to have a greater role, or for some who've fallen by the wayside, clamoring for them to come back. The Marioverse has so many of these characters now that it's actually created a logjam for Smash Bros. When only one or maybe two can make it in each game, their fans are left waiting and hoping their favorite is next to get their big break. This is Challenger Approaching, where we take a character who isn't playable in Smash yet and go deep into detail on what they could be like if they got in for real. Our challenger this time is a member of Mario's secondary cast, someone who through circumstance gained a prominent role, and with it, a growing support base. But with competition so stiff, will he get the chance to track down his greatest treasure yet? Captain Toad! Captain Toad is a member of the Toad species who happens to be a captain, but there's much more to him than what it says on the tin. His debut came in Super Mario Galaxy as the leader of the Toad Brigade, a set of recurring characters who scouted out locations ahead of Mario and helped him find Power Stars. From the beginning, his core personality traits were on full display, as someone who wanted to play the role of fearless leader, but had a cowardly streak that always led to him asking Mario to do the actual dangerous stuff. Captain Toad's character and role expanded further in Super Mario 3D World. He gained a unique design with his now trademark Explorer's outfit, he appeared in multiple levels where he'd give Mario a green star he found, and most importantly, he had a handful of side stages all to himself. Set in compact diorama-like layouts, he was tasked with obtaining every green star on the map, but since he lacked the ability to jump, even basic enemies and small inclines were huge obstacles to navigate around. These levels proved so popular that they spun off into a full game. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker expanded on the concept with more abilities, more enemies, a friend to adventure with, 3 campaigns of puzzle box levels, and a trove's worth of treasure to find. It even got ported to the Switch. Everyone loves a good underdog, and that's a big reason why Captain Toad has gained such a following. He's not as supernaturally talented as Mario or the others, yet he still ventures into the unknown in search of thrills and treasure. He's also a more grounded character with legitimate flaws. His thirst for adventure clashes with his cowardly tendencies and forces him to face his fears. And his borderline obsession with finding treasure leads him to sometimes care more about his loot than his friends. But he's also shown dealing with and overcoming his inner demons. Many times in his game he's put in situations where he has to push through his fears to succeed, and he does. While he may have a greedy streak, it doesn't dominate him like it does Wario. When push comes to shove, his friends always matter most, and he's even willing to part with a treasure if he knows someone else needs it more. And these haven't gone unnoticed. The Toad Brigade has gone from making fun of him behind his back in Galaxy to following his orders with enthusiasm. He's earned their respect. He even has some legitimate talents, like his species' surprising strength that lets him pull objects out of the ground effortlessly and toss giant vegetables around like they're nothing. But whether he can parlay that into a Smash invite is hard to say. Captain Toad may have what it takes to join the fight, but he's one of several secondary Mario characters vying for an invite. If relevance ends up mattering, he might get passed up in favor of someone who's been in a new game more recently. And there's always the chance of another plant-style curveball happening, or a Mario not getting a newcomer next time at all. But if the stars did align, Captain Toad has enough standout abilities and enough of a support base that he very well could make it in. Wouldn't be the first time he did something unexpectedly impressive. So let's say he did manage to break new ground. What would Captain Toad be like in Smash? Cap's basic appearance is easy to set up. Use his design from 3D World onward. The Explorer's outfit, headlamp, and heavy-duty backpack differentiate him visually from his fellow Toads and play right into who he is and what he does. The backpack itself could be made somewhat smaller or more compact for gameplay purposes. It's not part of his hurt box, so making it less of a target would keep players from unconsciously aiming at something that can't be hit. Let's say maybe he brought a smaller one to Smash since it doesn't need to hold camping equipment. Captain Toad's animation should help sell who he is. He may be a scaredy cat at heart, but he's getting more courageous over time, so we can use a combination of cowardly and confident actions and expressions. His clumsy streak should also show up. Maybe when something makes him trip, he's startled at first, but his get-up animation has him dust himself off and act like he meant to do that. Anytime he's not exerting himself, he can sport a big smile since he's always excited to venture into the unknown and uncover new treasure. Captain Toad's alternate colors practically write themselves. Palettes that change his spots to blue, green, and yellow based on other Toad Brigade members is a no-brainer, with slight changes to the outfit as well, but always some kind of natural color. Maybe they could also work in that purple doppelganger that the Switch version's co-op mode uses? Or there's someone else who could sub in. Toadette is Captain Toad's adventuring companion in his game, even saving him at one point. So why not devote half the costumes to her as the Alex to his Steve? Her other palettes could cover colors Cap's costumes don't. Orange, light blue, etc. Now for Captain Toad's attributes and stats. But before we get into that, we need to ask a big question. Will he be able to jump? He famously can't in his game, and the 3D world levels that predate it, and I've seen several Smash concepts play around that fact and force him to rely on other means to get himself into the air. But here's the thing, the not jumping thing isn't actually a core part of his character. Captain Toad also shows up in Mario Kart Tour, and there he does jump when he performs a stunt off a ramp. The reason why he can't in his game is so the level layouts can work and make for a different take on the Mario formula. So, our concept will let him jump normally, but his jumps aren't very good. His backpack still weighs him down, and the playable Blue Toad in 3D World does have lower jumps than everyone else. While Cap's air control isn't bad, his jumps only go as high as Snake's, roughly second worst in the game, and so low he has to double jump to reach the battlefield platforms. With that in mind, let's talk fighting style. Playing as Captain Toad should, ideally, feel a lot like playing Treasure Tracker. Traversing levels in that game requires patience, thinking ahead, and seizing opportunities to make it through unscathed. We can translate that to Smash with a playstyle built for baiting and punishing. Cap's at his best when operating just outside his opponent's range, provoking them to do something so it can hit them while they're open. His best combos and knockout options come from these types of punishes. He also has a greater emphasis on grabs, not as much as a full grappler, but some of his best punishes start with a grab. These combine to make a fighter who thrives up close, but getting there is the tricky part, as shown by Captain Toad's exact stats. But first, something you don't see often, a low size rating. He's pretty small, which is generally a good thing in a platform fighter since it makes him harder to hit, even if it also means worse range. Especially since he's heavier than most shorties. Toads are bulkier than they look, and this one's lugging equipment around, making him a middleweight. So about that getting up close is a challenge thing. Cap's not very fast. All of his mobility stats are in the back half of the roster. His initial dash and airspeed are in the bottom quarter, and his run speed is the 5th worst. He's pretty slow in his game, so carrying that into Smash is true to character. But don't let that scare you. Poor mobility is not a one-way ticket to low tier, and even has a few ways to circumvent his base stats and get around faster. This is also why his recovery rating is passable despite his mediocre airspeed. And he compensates in other ways, like those offense ratings. Toads are also stronger than they look, and as established earlier, Cap is no exception. While his attacks have subpar range, mostly, they're powerful, generally pretty fast, and have above average combo potential. This turns neutral situations into a game of cat and mouse, where he wants to be the one approaching while opponents have to find ways to keep him out. Use his tools right though, and keeping him out won't be so easy. But what are those tools? Let's delve into Captain Toad's moveset and see what he uses to fight. Starting with his basic attacks, a cornerstone of his kit. Cap's jab combo is a quick 1-2 punch directly ahead. While the total damage is lower than if you got an actual combo going, its sheer speed makes it a great disruptor. He looks away during the actual punches because he can't bear to watch. His forward tilt has him shoved forward with both hands while leaning back slightly, as if trying not to get hurt. Pretty fast for a tilt and surprisingly strong, and its horizontal knockback becomes increasingly scary at high percents. Its main downside is not much range. Cap's up tilt has him hold on to the straps of his backpack and hop to try and headbutt anyone above him. He doesn't hop very far, but it's the effort that counts. Actually, it ain't just effort. This move's a very good combo starter, and even has intangibility on his head for a couple frames to make it better at anti-airing. Only hits directly above him, but that doesn't hurt it much. Then his down tilt has him lunge forward slightly from a crouching position, about half the distance DDD's down tilt goes. It's a short burst option that beats out overhead attacks easily, but it doesn't kill until late, and Cap kinda doesn't stick the landing and has to pull himself up afterward for a lot of end lag. Rounding out the set is his dash attack, which has him suddenly stumble mid-run and fall forward, somersaulting twice before coming to an abrupt stop. This bit of slapstick is surprisingly powerful, but its relatively slower startup and lengthy end lag make it more situational than anything. Now for Captain Toad's smash attacks, where the little guy gets dangerous. For his forward smash, he takes a super pickaxe out of his backpack that he stashed away for such an occasion. While its power is depleted so he can't go wild with it, he can still forcefully swing it forward twice. It's a 2-input move like Link's forward smash that kills early and is especially good at catching opponents overshooting. Cap's up smash uses the super pickaxe again, but this time he flings it above him, damaging anything in its path as it goes up and back down. It's kind of like Robin's up smash animation-wise, and it's just as strong and useful for calling out landing options, but its range isn't as good as Robin's, and it doesn't have as much hang time at the top since it's not held in place with magic. Then Cap's down smash pulls directly from a hidden technique in his game. Rotating the left stick quickly enough puts him into a rapid spin that can actually damage enemies. Our smash counterpart is a space clearer with quick startup and a lot of active frames, but its range after the first full spin is lacking, and its end lag is significant. Captain Toad may not prefer the air, but his aerials can still get the job done. His neutral air is pretty makeshift though, with him sticking his arms and feet out in the vague shape of a star and spinning around once clockwise. It's sort of like Diddy's and Villagers' Nairs, a space clearer with a long-lasting sour spot that combos into stuff situationally, but poor range limits it mostly to whiff punishes. Cap's forward air has more heft to it, literally, because he slips his backpack off his shoulders, swings it horizontally with one hand, then slides it back on. Hey, maybe he's not as clumsy as he thinks. One of his few disjointed attacks, and a useful one at that. Startup is subpar by his standards, but it's strong enough to be a solid kill option, even if it's not as good at spacing as actual swords are. Cap's back air also uses his backpack, but since it's already behind him, all he needs to do is push backward in midair and slam it into anyone behind him. One of his most reliable finishers, its range may not be good, but it's fast, strong, and hard to punish on shield. Pretty similar to Peach's back air actually. Maybe he got the idea from her? His up air is another headbutt straight above him. This one's done with less care than his up tilt since he's out of his comfort zone, so it's stronger and has a bit more reach, but with more end lag and no intangible frames, which doesn't stop it from being nearly as good at comboing and eventually killing at high percents. Then Cap's down air uses the super pickaxe again, this time raising it above his head with one hand, then swinging it straight down with both hands. A powerful, disjointed spike, it's lethal at punishing predictable recoveries, and it even has decent startup for its archetype, but it also has as much end lag as you'd expect. We did say Captain Toad gets a lot off grabs, so let's see what those are about. His grab animations have him reach forward with both hands, which helps because his standing, dash, and pivot grabs all have above average hitboxes and frame data by brawler standards. When he gets his hands on someone, his pummel is a sideways headbutt to avoid breaking his headlamp. That thing's expensive. His throws are where this gets interesting. Cap's forward throw has him lift and toss the opponent away like a vegetable. The horizontal angle makes it good for stage control. His back throw has him spin around twice to gain momentum and fling them away. A kill throw at the ledge from 140% onward. Did he learn that from Mario? His up throw has him duck down to build up strength, then heave his opponent straight up with surprising force. Another kill throw, ending stocks off the top at 150%. Then his down throw has him quickly bounce the opponent off the ground with such little knockback that it works as a combo throw all the way up through 80%. Down throw to up tilt to up air and down throw to turn around back air would be staple combos at low percents. Finally, let's give him a few taunts, such as one where he does a quick little dance like when he finds a star in his game, one where he strikes a confident pose and points onward toward his next adventure, and one where he grabs the map on his backpack and checks it to make sure he isn't lost. Oh, we're far from done yet. Captain Toad's specials show that, just like the levels in his game, there's much more to him than meets the eye. Let's start with his neutral special. You know, for someone who isn't that fast but wants to approach, wouldn't it be nice to have something that helps open people up? Well, that's exactly what he has. Among the many things Captain Toad can lift and throw in his game are these miniature turnips. They're his main form of offense anytime he can get his hands on one, and in Smash they can be just as useful. Press the B button, and Cap pulls a small turnip out of the ground in the blink of an eye and tosses it forward immediately. The turnips travel in a slow-ish arc, almost like he didn't put his full strength behind it, dealing minor damage or shield stun on hit, and they're destroyed on contact with anything. But here's where it gets interesting. If you're standing on the ground or on a platform, the move plays out as described. But if you're in the air, he reaches back and pulls a turnip out of his backpack instead, because he came prepared, taking a few more frames of startup to do so, and when he throws the turnip, he aims it at a lower angle. Turnip toss is a fireball-type projectile with some added quirks. They're best used to help cover Cap's approaches by giving opponents something else to deal with at the same time. Since the move is slower and the turnips don't go as far when airborne, it also helps emphasize his more ground-focused playstyle, though it still has its uses in the air. While that one was easy to pull from the source material, for Captain Toad's side special, we're going to think outside the box. Some levels in Treasure Tracker have Captain Toad, or Toadette, ride a minecart and chuck turnips in first person like a rail shooter. This is not that. Instead, we're pulling from a certain piece of promo art showing Cap riding a smaller minecart. It may not show up in-game, but I think we can justify using it. Once activated, Captain Toad short hops as the Toad-sized minecart appears beneath him. The cart careens forward at high speed, as fast as Captain Falcon's Raptor boost with greater maximum distance. The cart has a small amount of damage-based armor that lets him tank through weak attacks, and it deals a strong hit if it collides with someone. So, what's the catch? Well, if the cart goes its max distance without hitting someone, or if you press any button to cut it short, it stops so abruptly that Cap falls out the front of it and face plants. Or if you're in the air, he's forced to fall a set distance before he regains his bearings. Mini Minecart is a burst option with unique upsides but also unique risks. It's safer on shield than moves of this type usually are, but it's much less safe when it whiffs. This means it works best as a call-out against predictable opponents or to beat out a weak attack or projectile. It also works as an alternate recovery move off stage, though you'd need to time it so he isn't left helpless for too long afterward before grabbing the ledge. Speaking of recovery moves, we need an up special, and for that, we're going outside the box again, sort of. The Propeller Box is a power-up from Super Mario 3D World that can be worn to propel oneself into the air. Captain Toad hasn't gotten to directly use one yet, but he did appear in the same game, and could have plausibly gone and found one to use in Smash. He's resourceful like that. On use, Cap pulls out a propeller box and puts it on, and it immediately sends him upward. The distance it goes is modest, take K. Rool's recovery and cut its distance by a third, and it doesn't do much damage on hit. But once the box wears out and poofs away, Cap goes into a type of special fall instead of true free fall. He can't use any more specials until he touches the ground, but he can use regular attacks and air dodges like normal. Propeller Box is a recovery move that looks underwhelming on its own, but shines as part of a greater whole. The lack of freefall lets you recover high as a mix-up, and having the flexibility to use it early or late encourages further mix-ups. You can also use it to gain vertical height without expending a double jump, getting in place for juggles or reaching high platforms without Cap's lack of mobility holding him back so much. These are pretty typical for Smash specials, right? Can't we do something more interesting? Oh, don't worry. You ain't seen nothing yet. Captain Toad's down special is inspired by his eye of all things shiny and valuable. When in battle, the more he moves around, the more his innate treasure senses build up. Once they've built enough, an icon appears above him that indicates he senses something valuable nearby. At any point after, using this move while on the ground will have him spend a second searching his immediate surroundings and find one of 4 treasures that he then stashes away in his backpack. Then the next time he uses his neutral special, he pulls the treasure out and throws that instead of a turnip. The available treasures are as follows. A super gem from his game, which is bigger than the regular turnips and hits harder, able to KO at higher percents. A stack of coins that splits apart on contact with something, dealing 3 hits in quick succession with a coin effect like Mario's Super Jump Punch that lock opponents in shield for longer. A throwing hammer like the Hammer Bros use, it's Captain Toad's signature item in Mario Kart Tour, so it's fair game, which spins in midair when thrown, giving it even more coverage. And rarely, a golden mushroom. Not only does it hit the hardest of any treasure, it has a built-in trample effect that lets it destroy any projectile that isn't significantly stronger than it and keep going. Treasure Tracker indirectly helps Cap approach more easily and punish more enemy actions than he'd be able to normally, as long as he keeps moving around. His treasure senses build up fastest when running, moderately when walking or moving in the air, very little from dodge rolling or from his initial dash, so dash dancing in place doesn't help, and not at all when he's taking knockback from an attack. And a fair warning, throwing a treasure will always use the slower neutral special animation, since he's always taken them out of his backpack. Finally, we have Captain Toad's final smash. What can he do for his ultimate attack? How about using that newfound respect? The rest of the Toad Brigade is here to follow their captain's example, and those big mine carts I mentioned earlier, they're here too. Powered up by the Smash Ball, Cap summons one of those full-size minecarts loaded with coins to drop down from the sky in front of him. If any opponent gets hit by it, they're whisked away to a cinematic finisher that places them at the base of a steep slope with 5 sets of rails coming down it. Suddenly, the camera quickly pans to further up the slope, showing Captain Toad leading the entire Toad Brigade down it, riding a fleet of 5 minecarts in V formation. He looks ahead toward his helpless foes, brandishes the super pickaxe again, points ahead, and exclaims, "Onward!" And the brigade careens down the slope and plows right through anyone stuck in their way. If any foes are still standing after that, the fight resumes. But Cap can steel his resolve knowing his team has his back. This is what Captain Toad could be like in Smash. A wayward explorer setting out into the unknown in search of new adventures and epic loot. While his craven nature may fight him every step of the way, some courage and patience will help him find a way forward and overcome obstacles he'd never thought possible. Cap's at his best when using his superb punish game to catch opponents leaving themselves open, letting his high-damaging combos and strings go to work. His attacks up close are strong and fairly fast, letting him hold his own against rushdown fighters and other close-range brawlers in general. And he has situational means to circumvent his poor mobility stats, taking what would normally be a serious weakness and limiting how much it can hold him back. However, when he can't work around his poor mobility, he's vulnerable to fighters who can weave in and out of his threat range, and his mostly lackluster reach doesn't help. He's also susceptible to getting walled out by characters with strong mid-range tools, shutting down his best upsides until he can find a way in. And his low jumps often require use of his double jump to juggle and pressure platforms, forcing him to commit more to keep the advantage, especially on stages with platform-heavy layouts. How'd I do with him? Some parts of this challenger's concept really made me think to figure out what would work best. I decided to let him jump normally because forcing him to find workarounds in a game where jumping is so crucial felt too gimmicky. Finding out he can jump in Mario Kart Tour reinforced my decision. I had a thematic idea in mind at first where you could pull out power-ups from across the entire Mario series and use them to fight with, but the more research I did, the more out of character it felt, so I downplayed it in the final moveset and stuck almost completely to items he's directly associated with. I also took great care to make sure his down specials mechanics work with the playstyle I wanted him to have. It's meant to be something that rewards him for actively roaming around and approaching opponents, not something he can use at will like Steve's mining to force opponents to approach him. Any Mario hopeful's next game will have one hell of a gauntlet awaiting them. Captain Toad, Paper Mario, Waluigi, and everyone else will have to find a way to rise above their brethren. Hopefully the Mario fandom doesn't tear itself apart when the time comes. Wishful thinking maybe, but hey. For now, all we can do is hope for the best and see what the stars hold for us. Special thanks to these people for help making this video happen. Thanks especially to my patrons for your continued support. And now, it's up to my patrons to decide which of these 3 characters gets to go next. Ooh, that's an interesting one. So, until next time, may you find an adventure all your own.